guys, it's Christina. Welcome back to my channel. As the title suggests, this is going to be a review of the 2020 version of Caste Freak, which is currently streaming on Shudder. And it's primarily going to be a spoiler-free review, but it's going to be different than any of the other reviews you might see on YouTube because I am talking about, I'm kind of talking about it as it relates to, as if I haven't already talked ad nauseum about disability representation, but anyway. So I'm going to be talking about the disability representation. They did select a sighted girl to play the blind character in this movie, and, you know, I've already watched the movie twice. And, you know, just to kind of give y'all my thoughts on it as a person who's had, you know, 37 years, my entire life, lived as a visually impaired person. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into the review. So this version of Caste Freak is a reimagining of the Stuart Gordon film. So this movie is about a couple, John and Rebecca. And we see kind of at the very beginning that even though John has Rebecca as his girlfriend, you know, he has kind of a wandering eye and he's interested, you know, in talking to other women, and, you know, he has an issue with drugs and alcohol. And so they are at an event, they leave this event, and they end up, John is driving them home, and in the process of that, they end up getting into a car crash. And as a result of this car crash, Rebecca ends up being completely blinded. You know, the camera work kind of shows you that in the sense that, you know, as sighted people tend to do, you know, they tend to view blindness as either a black or a white thing. You know, the general public doesn't realize that blindness is a spectrum. But in this case, you know, they use a completely black screen to give the audience the message that, you know, Rebecca can't see anything anymore. So John and Rebecca end up finding out that Rebecca has inherited a castle from her mom who has passed away. And so they end up going to the castle, which is located in Albania. And we'd see a lot of lovely, shots of Albania throughout the film. And so they go to this castle in Albania, and basically throughout the movie, you know, John's whole intention is, you know, to reassure Rebecca that everything's going to be fine once they sell the castle, and, you know, he's just in it for the money, you know. But she really wants to find out kind of the mystery of, you know, what's going on in the castle, find out more about her mom. You know, she ends up having these nightmares where, you know, at night where she has these visions of her mom and visions of the monster that's lurking in the castle. So that's really all I want to say about the plot line, because I don't want to give too much away. So as I mentioned, I feel like I've talked a lot about disability representation, whether it's on my own channel or whether it's, I had the pleasure of being on the podcast Freaks and Psychos a couple months ago, and talked about representation in regards to the movie Don't Breathe. And so, so now I'm talking about this film on my channel, and something interesting y'all should know, which most people haven't, I haven't told most people this, but I auditioned, I auditioned for the lead role of Rebecca in this movie. I found out about it from, I don't know how many of y'all have been following my channel for years, but I found out about it from the program that I took several years ago at Queen's Theater. There's a program for actors with disabilities, and after that program, you know, they set up a Facebook group, and so whenever they find out about casting notices and stuff, they tend to share it on the group. And so, so this ended up being one of the casting notices that they've posted, and which was really exciting for me, you know, because I love horror movies and whatnot. So that was very sweet of them to share that information on the Facebook group. And the funny thing about it is, I mean, y'all know how modest I can be, like I was reading the breakdown, you know, and it said, you know, but it said like, you know, in the movie, like the character, you know, there's like simulated sex scenes and there's partial nudity. And, you know, I was really hesitant about it at first, you know, even though there's no, you know, there's no nudity when it comes to the auditioning and rehearsals and stuff like that, you know, but anyhow, so, but I thought, you know, it's a movie that's being produced by Fangoria, you know, it's something that'll get me out of my comfort zone. It's a character, you know what I mean? So I went ahead and did the audition was like 3 different scenes. Like I said, there's no nudity in the audition process. So yeah, so they sent me the audition, and you know, they gave me adequate time. They, in addition to the sides, they also sent the whole script, so I was able to read the whole script, and I was really impressed by the film. I really like the way that, you know, they've reimagined this story, and so so yeah, so that was a really cool opportunity to be able to audition for that. Like I said, they end up selecting a sighted girl for the lead, and I actually really do like the chemistry between her and the guy, the 2 leads in this movie, if you will. So let me go ahead and talk about some of the blindness aspects of this film. Some of the things that they did right, and some of the things that I felt they could have done better at. And, you know, whenever it's a one-off movie like this, you know, no sequels or anything like that, where they have a non-disabled person playing a person with a disability, you know, I mean, I know just in my everyday life how much, just how much misinformation and or lack of information is out there regarding disability in general. You know, I mean, it's always been my experience that, you know, if you're not related to somebody with a disability, or you haven't been in classes or been like a coworker, or, you know, anything like that where you're regularly seeing somebody with a disability on a regular basis, then, you know, there's just a lot of things that people don't know about it. So, you know, I always try to give these filmmakers the benefit of the doubt, you know. So after Rebecca is blinded by the car accident, there are a few instances here or there where we see her being led around by another person, you know, and of course I'm like looking closely at the screen because I'm like, are they doing sighted guide correctly? No. You know, there's a few instances where, like in the very first part where we see her being, we see her and John entering the castle, and he's leading her by the hand, and then she's got her cane in the other hand, which, I mean, you know, definitely when you're entering new surroundings, you know, I mean, well, depending on the person, you know, some people might want to use their cane to explore their way around, but, you know, so like that was the very beginning scene, and as far as I could tell, it seemed like she was using the cane correctly to get down the stairs. And then there's another scene a little bit later on where she's walking with the groundskeeper, and they're they're not doing sighted guide accurately. I will go ahead and link, I'm sure I can find a video, if not a few videos, on the proper way to do sighted guide. And while they were walking around the perimeter of this castle, there was a point where there were 2 steps that the groundskeeper ended up helping Rebecca get down these 2 steps. Had they been doing sighted guide the correct way, she would have been holding on to, you know, the part right above his elbow on his arm, and, you know, she would have been a step behind him, and she would have been able to feel that he was taking these steps down. Or she could have had, you know, the opposite choice. If she had been walking independently with her cane, she would have had her cane out in front of her and the cane would have found the steps for her. And I know there's also some differences within orientation and mobility training in the blind community, where some people choose to tap their cane and some people choose to sweep their cane on the ground and not lose contact with the ground. I'm sure probably one of the reasons they didn't have her tapping the cane was because, you know, it probably would have been picked up on the sound on the microphone or whatever. But I mean, me personally, like, whenever I'm using my cane, you know, I've always been taught to tap it. You know, it's an auditory thing. You're listening, you're using your ears to listen to the environment around you, and you're also listening for the feedback that the cane provides you when you're tapping it. So it'll tell you, you know, if you just tapped your cane like against a wood door or, you know, tile flooring or whatever the case may be. And in the last act of this movie, there's a scene where Rebecca is walking through the cave with one of the guys. And so the guy is walking in front of her with his lantern or whatever. He's holding that in his left hand. And so she is on his right side, I believe, and she's got her left arm outstretched, and so her left hand is holding onto his shoulder. And that's how this guy is leading her through the cave. And obviously that made me very uncomfortable to see that. And not only that, but like, he ends up getting spooked. And so even though she tells him not to leave her, he bails on her. So like, you know, and this is what audiences are seeing, and what they're learning from is, you know, some of them might see this and they might think it's perfectly fine to bail on a blind person who isn't familiar with their surroundings. So overall, I was impressed with this movie and with the character of Rebecca. I know some people might get mad at me for saying that because it's not accurate representation of blind people, but I mean, even still, you know, it still shows her as being an intelligent person, a strong-willed person. You know, there is a scene where she has sex with her sighted boyfriend, and there's another scene where, you know, they show that she is capable of, you know, navigating her way around a kitchen and cooking on her own. But yeah, I mean, those are the things I like about the movie. I do wish there were, you know, certain spots where they didn't make her seem like she was helpless, and they wouldn't have bailed on her, and they would have done the orientation and mobility a bit better. You know, like I said, I can't see well enough to tell, like, if the actress was wearing contacts, or to tell if the height of the cane was correct, or, you know, just lots of little visual things like that. But yeah, just let me know in the comments what y'all thought of this movie. And for those of y'all who aren't that familiar with blindness or visually impaired life in general, feel free to subscribe to my channel. You can also subscribe to, I'll leave a few more links of recommended blind YouTuber channels down below, so you can subscribe to them as well. And I hope this video provided some education for y'all, and if you like this video, go ahead and leave me a comment, give this video a like, subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.